Hello all you lovely people and welcome to another to buy or not to buy video of mine, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about Alone in the Dark. Now this is a reboot of sorts, and this is the recently revived horror classic which injects new life into the franchisee with a complete overhaul. Stepping out of the shadows, you get to play as Emily Hartwood and Edward Carnby, who take center stage as they investigate the disturbing events plaguing Louisiana. Does Alone in the Dark recapture the spirit of the originals while offering a modern experience, or does it get lost in its own darkness? Let's grab a flashlight and delve into this quick to buy or not to buy video of mine, where I'm going to break down the good things, the bad things about this game. I'm going to talk about who should play it, or who should wait for it, or you should not buy it at all. So kindly stick around till the end of this video. With that said, let's get started, folks. Let me first start by talking about what kind of a game this is, who developed it, or who published this game, how this came to exist. Now, Alone in the Dark is a 2024 survival horror video game developed by Pieces Interactive and published by THQ Nordic. Now, this game is a reimagining of the original 1992 Alone in the Dark and is the 7th installment in the Alone in the Dark video game series. The game features a single-player narrative set in the 1930s, where players can choose to play as Edward Carnby, voiced by David Harbour, or Emily Hartwood, voiced by Jodie Comer. Now, you're going to make your way through the Derceto Mansion to uncover the mysteries within. This was released for PlayStation 5, Windows, Xbox Series X and S on the 20th of March 2024. Let me talk to you about the development of this game, because a remake of the original 1992 game Alone in the Dark was in active development by Eden Games after the release of Alone in the Dark Inferno. But following the liquidation of the studio by Atari in 2013, the game was cancelled. 3 years after the poor reception of Alone in the Dark Illumination, then owner Atari SA sold the Alone in the Dark franchisee to THQ Nordic in September 2018. Pieces Interactive, which was most known for making Magica 2, commenced the game's development in 2019. Now this features an original plot that incorporates characters from the first 3 Alone in the Dark games. The game was clearly inspired by the success of Resident Evil 2 in 2019 and Resident Evil 3 in 2020. The game was written by Michael Hedberg, who had previously worked at Frictional Games on Soma and Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Artist Guy Davis, best known for his work with Guillermo del Toro and his own comic series, The Marquis, was recruited to design the monsters featured in the game. Series creator Frederick Reynal gave his blessings to the reimagining, saying that Pieces Interactive did a great job preserving the core feeling from the original game. Okay, I've now given you information from Wikipedia on the game, so now my 2 cents on the game itself. The narrative explores themes of cosmic horror and conspiracies, offering a decent story, but of course, it lacks the groundbreaking originality of past entries. However, fans of the genre might find themselves intrigued. Playing as both Emily and Edward definitely offers a fresh perspective and leverages their unique skills. This keeps the gameplay engaging and allows players to connect with different personalities. I, of course, chose to go along with Emily Hartwood because, of course, the story revolves around her missing uncle. Now, I don't want to give too many spoilers away because I think the mystique or the mystery that surrounds this game is what makes it really enjoyable. Now, this is not a game where you go in with an expectation of a lot of action. Because if you're thinking that this was inspired after all from the Resident Evil remakes, like the 2 and the 3, but it's a very different game. Especially when it comes to the pacing of the game. The pacing is kind of a slow burn, so not a lot of people may enjoy the pacing of this game. Since the game has very minimum action, I would say, compared to other games in the franchisee, there are a lot of discoveries that you have to make. Now, what do I mean by discoveries? You have to listen to a lot of audio files, you have to read a lot of stuff, and the game offers many puzzles, many interesting ones at that. And to solve these puzzles, you have to read from all the things that you have collected. You have to go through your collection, you could say your archive, and you have to read about all these puzzles. Only then will you be able to solve them. The puzzles were quite enjoyable, but what I did not enjoy were the long audio files that I had to listen to. Now, of course, it offers a glimpse into all the different characters that you would come across in the game. So, going through these audio files is definitely gonna give you this immersive experience of this world surrounding you. But there are far too many and far too long. I mean, sometimes you have to go through 5, 6 pages of these audio files, and they are long transcripts that you have to listen to. Now, the voice acting is stellar, of course, and even the motion capture, I think they have done motion capture, a little bit of that at least. It's all good. But what's not good is that only comes with the main cast. The other characters in the game, which is the doctor or the nurse or Batiste or Lottie. So these characters look very different from the main cast, which is Emily and Edward. The quality of the animation, the facial expressions, they look realistic when it comes to Emily and Edward, but the NPCs are the exact opposite because they look like straight out of a 1930s cartoon. So, in terms of the immersiveness, it actually takes you out of it instead of making this more immersive because it feels like you're looking at two different worlds. These characters, these NPCs come from a different quality or a different world, and the main cast of Emily and Edward, they're on a different league altogether. So, consistency is definitely a bit of a concern here. What I absolutely loved about this game was this whole world that they've created. I mean, it's a very disturbing atmosphere. It's drenched in suspense. It has a lot of gore. And there's an air of mystique surrounding this whole world. The sound design, the environments, they all excel at creating this sense of dread and unease, keeping you on the edge of your seat. So, the highlight of this game, in my personal opinion, are the levels or the world design of this game. Whether you are at the Derceto Mansion or whether you're in this parallel reality, I mean, every single pixel that you see on the screen, it definitely has been meticulously crafted. I can say that. And there's been a lot of love and care that has gone into designing the level of, or rather levels of this game. So I absolutely loved the world design of this game, which is again a stark contrast from the non-playable characters like your supporting cast and crew, because they feel like they have just come out of a comic, but the world feels realistic, the main cast feels realistic. So there is this kind of a disconnect somewhere, and I think if they would have worked on the non-playable characters a little more, then I think the immersiveness would have just been a lot better. What I also liked about this game is the existence of parallel realities. So you're jumping back and forth between these different worlds, and the way that they have integrated that into the cutscenes or into the gameplay is brilliant. Sometimes you get these jump scares even when you're switching between the different worlds. So that's what I'm saying, right? The world that they've created in itself is the highlight here, and it adds to those jump scares. It's not like you're getting these jump scares because of the monsters that they have. You're getting jump scares even when you're switching between the different worlds. So that's how impactful the world building really is. So kudos to them again when it comes to the world building, because they've done a really good job with the levels, with the world design, and the way the game looks is just brilliant. All is not well though, and that goes for any game that you would come across. While the core gameplay loop revolves around exploration and puzzle solving, combat encounters can be clunky and frustrating. The aiming mechanics, they're not that great. The enemy design in some places, although they've been designed really well, don't get me wrong, but there's this thing about inconsistency. Some areas they really look fantastic, in some areas the enemies look underdeveloped. And even the puzzles, they're well designed again, and they do require thought. But at the same time, some of the puzzles feel overly simplistic or obtuse. So the inconsistency can disrupt the flow of the gameplay. And that is the theme that I found with Alone in the Dark. Inconsistency. Because at some places the game shines and the game looks so good. At the same time, in some areas, it looks rough around the edges. So, inconsistency definitely plagues Alone in the Dark. In my playtime, I was playing this on my Asus ROG Strix G15 Advantage Edition, which has the RX 6800M, a 12 GB dedicated graphics card. And I was playing this at 1080p with most of the settings kept at either epic or cinematic. And with those settings, the game suffered from occasional frame rate drops and some glitches because the movement just feels a little jarring, especially during intense moments. And I think this can definitely be addressed in future patches, but my experience with the game has not been completely smooth. But apart from these occasional frame rate drops, the game otherwise performs pretty alright. Finally, let's start piecing it all together. Who should play this game? Fans of the original Alone in the Dark games looking for a nostalgic return with a modern twist? Players who enjoy cosmic horror stories with a focus on exploration, a focus on atmosphere will love this one. And gamers who don't mind occasional technical hiccups, of course this is subjective because it also depends on the configuration of your machine. I was playing this on the PC. I have not played this on the Xbox or on the PlayStation 5. But on the PC, it definitely had occasional technical hiccups like frame rate drops. But that's about it. Apart from that, it was pretty smooth. Now, who should wait for this game? Players who find clunky combat frustrating and prefer more polished gameplay experiences. Gamers turned off by repetitive puzzles and a lack of innovation in puzzle design, because you remember I spoke about consistency. That definitely is a problem here. Some are overly simplistic and some are really thought-provoking. So those who might want to wait for potential patches, because I'm playing this 3 days after it launched and I still have some technical issues, but apart from that it ran pretty smooth. So if you want to wait for some updates or some patches to come through, then you can definitely wait for this one. Now the game is already discounted on Steam, because here in India I purchased this for around 2,100 Indian rupees, which is a little over $20, which is not bad for a game of this length and size and this quality. Overall, I think the only thing that I can say about Alone in the Dark, I can sum it up in just one word, and that one word is inconsistency. If they would have fixed that inconsistency issue, this game could have been so much better. Now, I also want to address some of the hate that some of the critics are giving this game. I don't feel that is justified. Now, when I find a game online on Steam or on Epic or on PlayStation and Xbox, I immediately jump to Metacritic to take a look at the critic score and also the user ratings. This game is quite polarizing because critics may not love it, but the users, well, they don't exactly hate it. And a lot of users have spoken pretty positively about it, and you would see very contrasting views on the game. Now, if you ask me personally, I would lean more towards the user ratings because I don't think the game is that bad. Now, in my first run, I played this game for 3.5 hours. Of course, if a game is boring, if a game is dull, if it lacks any sense of excitement, then personally, I don't go beyond 40 minutes to an hour. But in the very first run, I played this for 3.5 hours, which says something about this game. So the story itself will keep you going, and that says something about this new rejuvenated Alone in the Dark. So I don't think Alone in the Dark deserves that much hate, but at the same time, it is not an outstanding game. Now, if I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would personally rate it at around 7 out of 10. And if I did not face any of those technical issues, which I did, then I would have probably bumped this up to 7.5 out of 10. And that's just me. It's definitely above mediocre. It is a good game. It is definitely enjoyable if you are into slow burn games and games which do not have a very fast pace, but you want to take your time out, you want to learn about this world. If you're into puzzle solving, then Alone in the Dark offers a decent return to form, but it stumbles in its execution in some places, so it's rough around the edges in some areas. Now, the horror atmosphere and the dual protagonist system are good, but technical issues and uneven gameplay elements prevent it from being a must play right now. If you're a die-hard fan of the franchisee or a patient horror enthusiast, then it might be worth checking out. Otherwise, you might want to wait for a big sale or consider other horror titles with more refined gameplay like the Resident Evil remakes. Now, what are your thoughts about Alone in the Dark? If you have had the chance of playing this game, then please let me know your 2 cents as well in the comments section. If you have liked this video, then consider subscribing to my channel because I do make gameplay videos, videos on gaming, some gaming unboxing videos as well. So if you want gaming content, then you have come to the right channel, and a like and a sub will be greatly appreciated. Also consider hitting that bell icon because every time I release a new video of mine, you will get a notification that I have done so. But as far as this video goes, it's a wrap for this one, and I'll see you lovely folks in my next video. Until that time, I'll say take care, stay safe, and may God bless you all.